Comedy legend Louis Black is bringing Goodbye Yeller Brick Road, the final tour, to Steelhouse on Sunday, February 25th. Tickets go on sale Friday, November 17th at 10 a.m. Get yours at steelhouseomaha.com.
You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
I'm wondering if you'd go wandering with me through the wilderness and woods to where the winds are blowing free, through the darkness of the night, heading toward the morning.
Welcome to the Jester Section Hiker Podcast with the spotlight on section hikers.
And I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come, and we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods.
Welcome back to the Jester Section Hiker Podcast, the premier podcast with the spotlight on section hikers, and I am your host, Julie Jester Gayhart. My guest co-host, Charissa Hipp, is back as we continue our talks about the healing power of nature. And Charissa shares with us about mindfulness practices and forest bathing. She also shares with us some startling statistics about how much time we actually spend outside versus inside, and how many hours on average per day we spend using technology. You will also hear some very helpful mindfulness practices that you can use even in your own backyard. Thanks for joining us as we dive into mindfulness practices, connecting with our senses, and finding that special spot that speaks to you on the trail. All right, co-host Charissa, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be back behind the mic with you, Jester.
How's it feel? Let's see, this will be your third episode on the podcast. We had your first episode over a year ago, and then I will go ahead and say your last episode went very well with the listeners. So bravo and congratulations.
Thank you. It's always easier being on the podcast without a, 5 or 6 year old by my side, because I don't have to worry what she might say.
But wait a minute, that's the fun part.
True. When you're not the parent.
Well, that is true. That is true. So Charissa and I are enjoying a wonderful Sunday morning in our respective areas. We have cups of coffee. We are ready to go. And if you guys will remember, on our last episode with Charissa, we introduced that she is now working at the ATC. And we started our chats with the power of healing in nature. So why don't we kick this off with what's happening at the ATC? What do you got going on in your new role? And give us some insight of who you're seeing these days.
All right. Well, we just came out with our Fall Journeys magazine, which is a publication that we send to our members, and is actually a really popular publication. A lot of people think that print is dead, but studies have shown that a very high percentage of people read journeys from cover to cover. So we like to think that we have some pretty good content in there. And this one
I'm raising my hand over here. Yep, yay! I got it.
And so the fall edition is a very special one because it's celebrating the 100 years since Benton MacKay's vision to create the Appalachian Trail. And so it's a very high quality, not that any of the others are not, but this one is super high quality. And we just reached out to a lot of really special people to include stories in artwork and photos in this edition. So it's something that the staff at ATC is really proud of to have out there and commemorate this special occasion. And in the visitor center right now, we are kind of on the tail end of southbound hikers. We're having a lot of section hikers come through here in the fall, and even
Yay, go section hikers.
Yeah, go section hikers. And even some flip-flop hikers who are starting this fall will take the winter off and then will resume their hikes in the spring of 2022. Plus,
that is awesome.
Yeah, plus we're seeing a lot of people register their through hikes for 2022. There's a lot of exciting chatter about that. People who are already looking forward to getting their hang tags, even though we don't have those hang tags.
Hey, listen, that is a coveted item, and rightly so. People are proud of that.
Oh, yes, it is. And we had a really fun section hiker in the other day. She had started section hiking in 2016, and she was so proud to have finished her section hike. And she stopped in with her husband, who said he is not a hiker at all, but he showed me a picture of a map on their wall at home, and he has golfed all along the AT as he supported her on her section hikes. So he has this great, that long map of the AT, and he had golf tees of all different colors all along the edge of the trail. And it was so fun to see that. And
oh my God, that is awesome.
Yeah, it was great to see how they had, worked together to each do something that they loved and enjoyed. And so he said, hey, I wasn't going to get out there and hike with her, but I could find something to do that I liked and enjoyed along the way. So I love it when those kind of visitors come in and share their personal connections to the trail, and everybody has a unique one. So it was fun to chat with them.
I love that. What a great idea with the golf tees. So perfect.
Mm-hmm. I told them, I said, I think that's maybe one of the most unique uses of the map that I've seen. And it was neat to see.
That is awesome. And I know, you guys are maybe doing some aesthetic things inside the ATC there.
We are doing some temporary aesthetics, hoping that down the line we'll have some bigger changes take place to some of our interpretive displays and so forth. But right now we have some barn doors that were just installed over the hiker lounge, so it makes that entryway look a lot nicer. We're having a painter come in sometime this fall and repaint everything a nice light color of green, kind of a sage green. And we had to move some of our interpretive displays because with the barn doors, when they open, it covers up wall space. So we had to take down our Springer plaque, and we're trying to figure out where that's going to go because it's about 40 pounds. So it has to go on the wall in a stud and be hung in a very specific way. But we did have some square panels that talk about people who've hiked the trail, like Grandma Gatewood and Earl Schaefer. And so we have relocated those for the time being and gotten those up on the wall so that people can still read about those people.
That is awesome. And speaking of Grandma Gatewood, you left off our last episode reading and talking about her. And I believe tomorrow is a very special day for Grandma Gatewood. So tell us about that.
Yes, tomorrow would have been her birthday. And so there's an organization here in Maryland called Primetime for Women. And they actually have a Grandma Gatewood legacy hike and series of events surrounding her birthday that they do. And so I get to do Grandma Gatewood trivia with them online tomorrow because their kind of final gathering, instead of being at a winery, is having to be virtual this year. And then Ben Montgomery, who wrote the book Grandma Gatewood's Walk, is going to come on and award the winner of the trivia contest a signed copy of the book.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. What a great thing to be a part of. I'm jealous.
Yes.
So I'll be thinking about you tomorrow while I'm at work.
Well, and it's really neat because the money that is raised through this Grandma Gatewood Legacy Initiative is going this year to a local organization that helps women who are victims of domestic violence. So how perfectly fitting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hate to even think about that but she is a monumental figure, for the Appalachian Trail and women who love to hike in general. So,
sure.
Wow. Wish I could be a part of that. So I'll be thinking about you guys tomorrow. And more fittingly, even as we ended last episode, not last week, but last time we chatted, episode after that, you and I continued talking. And I always regret this. I always wish I would have hit the record button, because you rattled off some startling statistics. And I thought it'd be a good way to maybe start off this episode as we continue your chats. In this episode, we titled Mindfulness Practices. So I think after these statistics, we could all start thinking about some mindfulness practices.
Certainly. And it's important to preface this with the fact that this statistic dates back to 2001, and it's still the most widely cited and pretty much the only available study on this topic. But in 2001, according to the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, the average American was spending 93% of their life indoors. So that breaks down to 87% of their life spent inside buildings, another 6% of their life spent in automobiles. And so that means only 7% of people's lives are being spent outdoors. That's only 1/2 of one day per week outdoors, which is crazy.
That is crazy to think about it. As you were reading that, and I'm sure these stats will come out sooner rather than later, even adding to now in our day and age, how many people are on their phone?
Sure. Well, and there's another statistic from the Nielsen company that goes back to 2018, and I can't even imagine what this would be whenever this kind of a study is updated because of the pandemic and how it's forced people to do so many things virtually. But the statistic from 2018 says that American adults spend more than 11 hours per day watching, reading, listening to, or interacting with tablets, smartphones, computers, and television. So again,
oh my, wait a minute. 11 hours per day?
Yes.
Well, I can see that because as an educator, I mean, I work at a high school every day, and, I don't want to call it the fallout from COVID, but it is a fallout from COVID, and you saw it with your daughter.
Sure.
And it was probably, the only thing we could think of as educators is, okay, they can't be at the physical building because we don't know what's going to happen with COVID. There was nothing. No vaccine, no anything, and not a lot of knowledge about, how it was spread, except it was spread really fast. So what we did is we threw kids on Zoom for 8 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to their lives, they're already connected to their phones. They're already connected to, their Xboxes and everything else. So that 11 hours, that's crazy.
It is. And it was kind of funny every year when, I take my kids to the pediatrician for their annual checkup. The doctor's really good about checking in on what their screen time consumption is, of TV or electronic devices, tablets, phones. And this past year, she was like, now not counting virtual school.
No, okay.
So I had to quickly say, okay, that can't count because it was kind of a necessary evil in the time of a pandemic. It was the only really truly safe way around continuing to educate students. Sadly, but
yeah. I mean, what else? I mean, it was like all, you didn't want to stop school, but it was
right.
The one thing that we had to do. And I will go ahead and confess as I hold my phone up so Charissa can see it. The Apple phone, I'm sure the Android phones do this too. Your phone will send you a weekly message of how many hours you've spent, this, that, and the other. I've turned it off because
it can be upsetting. It can be kind of startling. Yeah. I used to ignore it for the longest time. And then I was like, wow, I really need to work at getting that number to go down.
I know, it's insane. Like even this morning as I was, looking at my podcast schedule and answering some work emails, I know, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I had the television on, I have the laptop in my lap, and I've got the phone in my left hand. And I'm like, this is getting insane. And I don't even think about it anymore. Yeah, I need some nature big time. Which kind of leads to, I had this experience this summer. And And it was a 2-mile round trip experience on this forest bathing trail. And I think you even commented, I put a post up there of the picture of the signage as you enter the forest bathing trail. And it says, like, turn your cell phone off, sit down on the bench as you walk through and things like that. And I posted that on Instagram. And the first thing I thought was, how sad that a sign has to tell us to do these things. So talk to us a little bit about what is a forest bathing trail, because I had no idea.
Well, forest bathing, that term comes to us from the Japanese word shinrin-yoku, which translates to bathe in the forest. And it was a concept that came about in the 80s. And people in Japan were quickly figuring out that they were getting burnout at work and just the demands of daily life, and that they needed to step back and reconnect with nature to heal themselves. And so they created these retreats, and they would spend like a week at a time in nature and really truly get away from all technology, which we all need to do more often. Yes. And of course, then the science followed, studying what was happening with these people. And they found that, yes, it does create to a better health outlook for all of us when we spend time and connect with nature. So it caught on, and it has kind of slowly caught on in the US. It sort of started on the West Coast and is making its way to the East Coast, that, hey, we can, all go out and forest bathe. Some people prefer to do it with a guide. There are people that are trained to lead forest bathing excursions or retreats, but that you can also go out, and there are ways to implement it into your outdoor adventures. And there's actually a really great book written by Suzanne Bartlett Hackenmiller, who is a doctor. She actually serves on the board for the Association of Forest and Nature Therapy Guides. And she wrote a book called The Outdoor Adventurer's Guide to Forest Bathing. So she talks about how you can use Shinrin-yoku when you're hiking, biking, doing paddle sports, and rock climbing. So it's a great way to see how you can kind of integrate that into your outdoor practices and really reap the health benefits while you're out there.
I think that's great. And I will make sure that that title of the book and the way to purchase that is in the show notes. And, one of the things, I don't know if I've ever really called it a mindfulness practice, or, I only have the one experience on an official forest bathing trail, but I like to think of like smells. Like, for example, when I smell like fresh cut grass, it reminds me of my dad mowing the yard when I was little. When I smell, what I call, forest pines or Christmas trees, it reminds me of being on the top of Roan Mountain. And, the very first time I ever went to the top of Roan Mountain, and even Mount Mitchell has that same smell. And, that's what it does for me. And that is what I crave in between, long distance hikes that my local nature preserve can't give me. So I don't know if those were some of your examples of mindfulness practices, but maybe give us some more examples of, maybe what we could do, while we're waiting to go on those hikes.
Sure. So the idea of forest bathing has to do with really connecting your senses and being in the moment and not being distracted by other things in that moment. So really being present. And so forest bathing, when you're doing it with a guide, consists of a series of invitations. So no one feels like they're forced into doing anything, but they're invited to take part in these mindfulness activities. So one of them that is one of my favorites and is easy for most anyone to do is called the sit spot invitation. And that is where you go out, you find a spot that kind of speaks to you. It might be on a bench. You might hike a mile to get somewhere. You might have a spot in your backyard or a tree that is just a favorite spot of yours, and it overlooks your garden, or it makes you feel connected with nature. And you can start small and sit there for 5 minutes, because at first, whatever time distance you choose to sit there is going to feel like an eternity when you're not looking at your phone or anything. But it's really truly being in that moment and looking at all of the things around you and considering what you can see. What are the colors? What are the patterns in nature? What are the textures that you can touch? What can you smell? Like you were saying, smells can really take us back in our mind and connect us with previous experiences and memories. You can even taste, and sometimes you're just going to taste whatever you had to eat or drink earlier that day. But there's a practice in forest bathing where they suggest that you actually kind of curl your tongue around to almost create like a straw and try sucking in the air and see if there's anything in the air that you actually taste. So there's just so many ways to kind of be in that moment and take in your surroundings and appreciate what's around you. And like I said, if you start small and then grow your practice from there, you'll find, especially if you keep returning to the same spot, you'll start seeing all these little changes as the seasons change. Maybe it's a different time of day that you're enjoying the spot. So you're going to see something different in the morning when there's dew on the grass versus the full sun in the afternoon or at sunset or maybe even at dark. So it's just really, you don't need any equipment to do it. A lot of times I'll suggest when I take people out, like I had a community college group out yesterday, and I suggested that they have something to sit on because we were out in the morning. And I said, bring something, a little cushion or something to sit on, because there's going to be dew on the grass and it's going to be a little wet. And you want to be comfortable when you're going to sit there for 20 minutes, which is what we were doing yesterday. But, it can be really magical at times. Yesterday, I was sitting there overlooking the Antietam Creek, which is a creek here in Maryland, and it's not far from my house, actually at a Civil War battlefield, but it was very quiet. There was actually a dam in the creek there, and there was a blue heron that came out that was walking along the dam and fishing, and it was just amazing to see that and to witness that. And I've been there enough times now to forest bathe that I almost expect the blue heron to be there, but yet it's still magical every time it's there.
I love this.
Yeah, it's just really learning to connect with your senses. And that's when you'll notice that without that feeling of anxiousness of having to look at your phone, or has anybody messaged me, or what time is it? Those kind of things. That's when you find that your heart rate starts to slow. You're really like deep breathing. And so, you don't have to go into some trance or something, but
no.
That's when
well, I'm almost in a trance right now because it's taking me, I actually got really calm when you were talking. It was great.
Mm-hmm. And that's when the healing really starts to take place. So, researchers used to think 2 hours was the threshold where long-term significant impacts were measured, but more recently, they think that as little as 20 minutes a day can result in better health and wellness. So that's not a lot in the grand scheme of things if you can find 20 minutes a day to carve out for yourself. And so
not when we spend 11 hours on average a day,
right,
looking at screens. Oh my goodness. Right. That's terrifying.
So, and when you have those little moments of awe, like with me and the blue heron, that's when you experience something larger than yourself. And it's in those little moments that, you find that you have more gratitude and selflessness. And you just kind of see where you fit into the larger picture of the entire universe. And so a lot of times those mental health benefits and physical health benefits are just awesome. Nature is definitely healing. And so there are even chemicals that the trees emit called phytoncides, and they decrease the production of stress hormones, and they also contribute to increased natural killer cell activity. So that plays an important role in defense against bacteria, viruses, and even tumors.
Incredible. And quite honestly, you've stumped me in what to say, because I'm sitting here, and one of the things that came to my mind immediately as you were speaking is, relishing those moments. But for me, those moments are when I really want to invite people to come out and hike with me, because I want them to feel and experience the same thing. And that's what I want them to experience.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody has to go for a 6-month hike or,
Right.
A 3-week hike. You can experience that in 20 minutes. And that's what I encourage people to do. And that's really what this is all about, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, we talked about before we started recording today how, going into the holiday season, we can be really busy. It can be hectic. There are often a lot of things going on. And also the holidays can be a really difficult time for some people as well. And so nature can be a form of self-care. You don't have to carve out time to go for a massage or, anything fancy. You can walk out your back door and find a spot that speaks to you and take that time to just be and appreciate your surroundings. And, the health benefits are amazing. And why not soak up all the nature that you can?
Exactly. It's already helped me, like right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little more calm than when you and I started, and my mind is churning of all those memories that I've had and what I want other people to experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, believe it or not, we are 24 minutes into this episode. As you said, lead into the holiday season. First of all, happy holidays to everybody as we get into this. It's October now, and I think all the Christmas stuff is already out. In the stores, and all the decorations and the presents and everything else. As we lead into that, I think our next episode, we're going to talk a little bit about some things you can do in addition to what you chatted about today. But Charissa, is there anything you want to leave the listeners with?
Sure. So Richard Louv is the author of The Nature Principle, and also another book that many people are probably familiar with called Last Child in the Woods. And he has a great quote that I like to fall back on. He says, "For the jaded and weary among us, the outdoor world can expand our senses and reignite a sense of awe and wonder not felt since we were children. It can support better health, enhanced creativity, new careers and business opportunities, and act as a bonding agent for families and communities." And he goes on to say, nature can help us feel fully alive.
No better way to end the episode. Charissa, you and I will be back next month. Thanks again for coming on the show.
All right. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Charissa, for calming me as we were recording and taking me back in my mind to places where I have really connected to nature. My hope is that each of you find that magical place outdoors and find your blue heron. Charissa will be back next month as we continue our talks on the healing power of nature, mindfulness practices, and more specifically next time as Charissa shares how to connect with like-minded individuals. As always, you can go to hikingradionetwork.com and click on the Jester Section Hiker Show to find all of today's show notes, pictures, and links mentioned in this episode. If you find any value in what we do here at the network, please consider leaving us a donation by clicking on any one of the donate buttons found on our website, and let us know why you enjoy our shows. Thanks for listening. Be safe out there, everybody, and happy section hiking.
I'm wondering if you'd go wandering with me through the wilderness and woods to where the winds are blowing free, through the darkness of the night, heading toward the morning light. I wonder if you'd wander with me, and I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come, and we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods. You're wondering if I go wandering with you, what kind of trouble we'll get ourselves into. Would it be wrong to tag along with a band of vagabonds? You wonder if I'd wander with you. So I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come, and we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods. I'm wondering if you'd come wandering my way, if you ever get lost or if the trail leads you astray. The music of the pack can always bring you back. I wonder, can we wander away? And I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come, and we'll leave the streets in these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who pay attention to every little detail, the ones who fuss, tinker, and sweat the small stuff. Because you know the tiniest thing can make the biggest difference when it comes to keeping business moving. We get it. We're the same way, offering access to product experts to help you quickly and easily find what you need. So whatever your industry, you know you're always getting professional-grade products. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.